Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm Rachel O'Leary, and today we're out here with the tubs again because it is finally a beautiful day. And because it was beautiful, I succumbed to impulse control and went back to my local nursery and was super geeked to see they finally have in the carnivorous plants. Now, often I can find the ones in the little cups that are pretty young, but what I always look for is the bigger, more mature plants. I find that a few species in particular do quite well floating in a tub. And in fact, in a future video in the next week or so, I hope to show you guys how I make these floating planters. But obviously this one I purchased because I have no willpower. Now, not all species of carnivorous plant will do well floating in a tub, and it's important to mention as well that this tub is almost exclusively filled with rainwater, which is of critical importance as carnivorous plants in general need very dilute water, either rainwater, distilled water, or RO water in order to thrive. If your source water is quite a bit harder with TDS over about 100, you may not be able to get away with this. My source water, even from the tap, only has a TDS of 100, so it's sort of on the edge of being all right. But combined with all this rainwater, generally speaking, these guys do awesome. And I was especially excited because it looks as though it has bug bat in it. And I'll show you bug bat in my bog garden here in a few minutes. But it's one of my favorite varieties of pitcher plants, so I was geeked to find it in here. I also picked up a ton of scarlet bell. Let me grab one for you. Now this is the scarlet bell, and this is a variety that I find does particularly well in my tubs. Of course, you wouldn't want to fully submerge this plant, but if you put it in a floating planter like these Laguna pots, they tend to do really well, especially if you use the correct soil, and again, it's mainly rainwater. So I picked up a few of these. They were only 10 bucks, which for this size plant is pretty darn cheap. Anyway, I also picked up a few other marginals. I just want to put one tub of marginals onto the big 300-gallon mainly because it's predominantly full of lilies, which require the most light, and I like to be able to see in to check on my fish in this big volume. So today we're just going to pot up a little pot of marginals that'll stay relatively low, but some of the roots will grow down into the water, and then I think the tubs are basically finished. We'll take a quick look. I'll show you my bog garden because it's really shaping up, and yeah, let's get to it. Now, I've shown you guys this process for 4 years and even already this season, but yet there's always questions in the comments about what I do here. So we'll go over it one more time. I put newspaper in the bottom of the pot and the sides, and the purpose of this is just to prevent the soil from becoming waterlogged and seeping out the holes in the basket. Now, you can use solid baskets, but in my experience, things tend to go a bit better if you use these ones that have the holes. As we're filling it with the soil, which we'll talk about in a second, you just push the paper down so it's not visible. It's a super cheap, super easy solution, and it's worked out well for me for over a decade. I'm sure that there are many other options, including landscape cloth, screening, really anything that you would like to try. This soil is from my local nursery, which happens to be Stauffer's of Kissel Hill. They sell it for $4 to $5 a bag, and it's simply just a good, solid dirt for planting plants in. It doesn't have a ton of excess nutrients, so you would have to use root tabs if you have anything that's a heavy flower or anything like that. Generally, I'll fill the planter up with soil, which is super compacted. This aquatic soil is sold wet. I did see a lot in the comments about whether or not this could be used in an aquarium, and if it was, you'd have to treat it like you would a dirted tank. You'd have to use some sort of cap, otherwise it would just make a giant mess. It is, after all, just dirt. I find, though, that plants do super well in it, so it's been a good solution for me. Again, just tucking the edges of the paper in, and then we'll take our plants. Now for this planter, I wanted all things that stay relatively low. This is society garlic, which is really aromatic. Well, this is the variegated one. I have no idea how to say that. Tulbagia violacea, variegata, maybe. You can see on this plant, which also has some water clover as a freebie, there are actually 4 plants, and this plant was about $8. And one of the things that I like to look at when I'm buying my aquatic plants, and something that you could do in your area, is they almost always have this cold hardiness zone. So I try and pick plants that actually are designed for my area, as this will give me the best chance of overwintering them for use the next year. Society garlic did not overwinter for me this past year. It says it's US hardiness zone 7 through 10, and that's probably because I'm a 6B to be exact. But it has in previous years, so I guess it probably really depends on the winter. Now all I do is loosen up the roots, which will make it easier for them to root into my basket. And because this one gets big, beautiful purple flowers, I'm gonna place it in the middle. Again, just to the crown of the plant. This is a plant that does well with its feet wet, but not fully submerged. I also picked up some pennywort. Now this is a smaller version that flowers little white flowers. This is Hydrocotyledon umbellata. Hardiness zone 6 to 10, which means I can overwinter it here. And it should creep and spread, as well as send roots down into the water and make like a mat formation, which is really great for the fish that I want to breed in this big tub, which happen to be my meteor minnows. They're one of my favorite fish to breed outside, and I may even end up moving them out either today or this weekend. Again, I'm just breaking up the roots. With a lot of these, you can actually separate it into portions if you just gently sort of pull them apart as they grow in runners. Try and make it sort of a natural split. Set this at the edge. I'll be adding more soil as well. And then I picked up this plant, which is Sunset Loosestrife. And I really can't say that name. It's also called Outback Sunset. And this is one that will not overwinter here, but who knows, maybe in the greenhouse I'll get lucky. This one also blooms, and it can go slightly underwater, so it can go down 3 inches. Now most of these tags on the plants that I purchase have all this information, though it's not always particularly accurate or clear. So we'll see, but this is supposed to get yellow flowers with a red throat and stay about 4 inches tall. Since I've never worked with it before, we'll have to see how it does, but I thought it was worth trying. Now I like to buy all my plants early in the season because they often become root bound in the pots later on. And really, once your temperatures are over about 50 degrees Fahrenheit at night and getting up in the 60s during the day, the vast majority of plants from this zone at least will continue to grow. Again, we'll stick that on the edge. Now you guys know I normally use Creeping Jenny. I'm not this time just because I wanted to try something different as my border plant. Then I'll just fit in some more soil between these guys. And then I'll just grab some of the pea gravel from my, right behind me here, and lay it over the top. And all that does is help hold the soil down and the plants as their roots continue to take hold in this dirt. You could use anything though. You could use sand, you could use aquarium gravel, you can use things like I do here of pea gravel. I bought an entire truckload of this pea gravel when we put in these tubs for really cheap, and it's really been useful for a lot of purposes. I'm sure this isn't what my husband intended when he purchased it for me though. So there's our little basket. And see, that was extremely quick and easy. And it looks nice. And I'm just going to hang it right up here on the front with some zip ties. Now there is a little ledge inside this tub, but I don't find it to be the easiest to, it's not quite the right height and it's not quite the right depth for most of my plants. So just doing this zip tie trick historically has been the easiest for me. And then once I determine the final spot and placement, I can just go and trim the zip ties. And that's really all there is to it with a lot of my tubs. Now if you have a lower tub, you can certainly use things like patio pavers, bricks, milk crates, really anything to give some elevation to your pots. For me, using these zip ties has worked out the best, especially because I can just sort of tuck them under the edge, trim them off, and then be able to cut them at the end of the season to easily remove my pots and move them into the greenhouse for overwintering. Let's take a quick look at the bog so I can show you some of the things that I picked up. But before we do, here's a close-up of the basket I just hung, as well as that floating carnivorous planter. I just can't wait to see how these things turn out. You can see that the other tubs are having pretty amazing growth already, though I do need to get out here and fertilize my lilies to encourage flower development. Now let's go to the bog. So not only did I have impulse control at the garden store, I also had impulse control online. I've purchased from Blue Ridge Exotics a few times over the years. They have an Etsy store. And when I saw that they had this bug bat plant and it was a really affordable price, I had to jump on it. What I actually did was order their beginner bog, temperate bog plant pack, which was about $30, and it came with this plant, and this huge Venus flytrap. The packaging was impeccable. It came with plant certificates, and really I couldn't be happier with that. Now their stock list isn't the largest, and I'm not sure how much they actually have in stock, but the plants I've gotten there over the years have always been incredible. But I just wanted to show you how alive this bog is coming, how many new pictures there are everywhere, the incredible flowers. I really just can't wait for all of these to be in full bloom. I imagine this is going to be absolutely spectacular. All of my sundews are coming back. I found a little teeny tiny baby Venus flytrap right there. It's only about the diameter of a dime. I'm sure the birds helped me with that one. But all in all, I just couldn't be happier with this. I wanted to show you a quick follow-up as well on the bargain bins. So let's go take a look. Now this poor taro got a bit shredded because our gutters need to be cleaned. I thought I may try sticking some of this in the pot with this one, just to sort of cover up some more of this. The creeping Jenny's doing well, but it's not quite as full as I would like, so I did pick up another one of these, and again, this is that Outback Sunset, to just sort of stick in here. Oh, look at that flower! I didn't even know that when I bought it. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'm just gonna move my top dressing. Wow, this thing's really sending out some major roots. Press this guy in here. Cover it back up. And we'll see how that does. I can't believe it already has a flower. Oh, and look at, oh gosh, so pretty. And this is what I really love about these tubs. You get all these flowers. Like, here's more flowers. Now, this tub is still way too cold for fish. It's hovering in the 50s. I think that makes a big difference. What do you guys think? Again, look at that beautiful flower. Now, I accidentally drained this tub this week. It was really, really full from the profound rains we've had, and I started the siphon, forgot about it, drained it, so I partially refilled it with my tap water, and then with the amount of rain we always get, it should be filled back up in no time. This guy's not doing a whole lot so far, but I imagine it will in time. I think it's probably not getting enough sun. I may end up moving this floating planter into one of my other full sun tubs if it doesn't start to take off, because I really want to see what that red rose something or another does this season. So stay tuned to see what I decide to do about that. Now, this is the muck basket tub that I put those baby goldfish in. I did spot them both yesterday. I have to tell you guys, it's been kind of a fun game coming out here and sitting and trying to spot the fish, because they are so stupidly tiny still that I can sit out here for about an hour before I even spot one. And certain times of the day it's easier than others. I did see both of them yesterday, so I know they're still in here. I got a bit concerned because it got really profoundly cold a few days ago, down to about 40 degrees. And I almost came out here to pull them, but then I thought to myself, they're goldfish. They're tough as nails. If I can find one, I'll show you guys. But for now, you may... Nope, that's a snail. But But for now, I know that they're in here. I have been supplementing them with a little bit of food just because I wasn't sure if they were big enough to eat the copepods, and I wanted them to have a bit more of a complete diet. But you can see that the lily pads are coming in, and this plant is doing pretty darn well. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys this week. Let me know down in the comments how your tubs are coming along. Have you gotten to move your fish out yet? I've been coming out here every morning and every afternoon checking the temperature because I'm so eager for that to happen. As always, thanks for your continued support. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to that notification bell on so you don't miss any of my upcoming content.